When a very beautiful girl is indeed willing to marry a rich man to cover up a scandal, initially she has a truly happy family despite living simply. But her encounter with a man who is actually the boss at her workplace blinds her and leads her to betray in order to gain power. This beautiful woman named Jo Dahae. She comes from a poor family full of ambition and will do anything to become the first lady and survive in the midst of a conglomerate family. At the peak of her career as the first lady, she has to face a man from her past named Ha-ryu, who initially loved her wholeheartedly. During the first lady's speech at the Blue House, Ha-ryu, prosecutor, barged into Dahae's residence. The two of them got into a heated argument because Dahae couldn't accept Ha-ryu messing everything up and bringing up her past as a murderer. Dahae pointed a weapon at Ha-ryu until the sound could be heard from her room. Before becoming the first lady, Dahae was once a poor girl living off the charity of Ha-ryu. She couldn't even afford to give her mother a proper burial because she had no money and was nearly fainting from hunger. Fortunately, Ha-ryu, who turned out to be her childhood friend from the orphanage, came to save him. With money Ha-ryu has, Dahae can give her mother a burial. Not only was Dahae poor, but she also turned out to be a victim of physical abuse by her stepfather. She confided all her past stories to Ha-ryu, and the young man promised to protect her wholeheartedly. The girl expressed her hope that she really wanted to continue her studies to improve her future, so she decided to work at a bar. Not agreeing if his girlfriend works for a sleazy man, Ha-ryu is willing to fight with the bar owner. The two of them hugged gently under the softly falling snow and promised to love each other forever. To live peacefully with Dahae, Ha-ryu took all his money from Aunt Hong and found a decent place to live. Both of them lived on a horse ranch, and when he left Dahae briefly, the girl was approached by her stepfather and found Dahae had injured her stepfather with large scissors, leaving the man dead on the ground. As promised, that he would continue to protect Dahae, Ha-ryu, along with Dahae, buried her stepfather in a location not far from the plantation. He tried to calm her down and was even willing to take the blame for Dahae's actions, as long as she could go free. Ha-ryu asked Dahae to forget about the incident and stay focused on school so it wouldn't hinder her studies. They decided to move to a place that was relatively far away to avoid the incident. As she left, Dahae met Yang Hyun, looking for the whereabouts of his missing father. However, Dahae acts she doesn't know anything.
아니.
While living in their new home, Dahae and Ha-ryu lived harmoniously and supported each other. However, up until now, Ha-ryu is still hiding his job and claims to work as a manager at a nightclub like always. Together with a trusted and good friend, who is also a colleague in the profession as an entertainer, both of them try to attract wealthy women to earn more money. 5 years later, Ha-ryu and Dahae are now officially husband and wife currently. However, the two of them did not register their marriage so that Dahae would not be hampered in working after graduating from college. Even though he works late into the night, Ha-ryu is a good father to his daughter, and every morning he is always ready to make breakfast while Dahae leaves for college. They live so romantically, and Ha-ryu is always willing to do anything for his wife. He even spends his salary to support his wife's appearance so she can pass the interview at a prestigious company. Meanwhile, while working at the bar, Ha-ryu often received unpleasant treatment from drunk guests who frequently threw food at him during chaotic situation. One of the ladies sneered at him because he was considered less masculine and less attractive. He continued to work hard to provide for his family. After graduating from college, Dahae confidently prepared for an interview at the Bae Ka Group company, wearing special clothes and shoes gifted by her husband. Although initially she was nervous after losing a shoe, Dahae was eventually accepted to work at the company. A young man named Do-han approached him and handed over his missing shoe. It turned out he was the son of the company's president who was reluctantly working at his father's company. Previously, Do-han always refused to be part of the company and chose to pursue his dream of becoming a famous hockey player. However, due to pressure from her older sister named Do-kyung, he eventually agreed to work at the office. The first day of work, Do-han was so friendly and greeting and encouraging Dahae that his colleagues wondered what the relationship between the two was. Meanwhile, on the night of the new employee welcome party, the manager invited staff to a bar, which turned out to be the place where Ha-ryu worked. Unexpectedly, Dahae saw her husband performing a striptease in front of the female guests who were screaming with excitement. Dahae left the room before Ha-ryu saw her. She was truly shocked to find out that all this time her husband's job was as an entertainer. Taek-bae, who saw Dahae, finally confessed that he was the one who invited Ha-ryu to work at this place in order to support Dahae's education. To Taek-bae, she requested that Ha-ryu not find out about her presence here so as not to embarrass her husband. Weary step, Dahae went home to pick up her daughter Ha-eun-vil at Aunt Han's house. Upon returning, she could no longer hide her feelings, using the spilled soup on the road as an excuse to cry in front of her daughter. The next morning, she became so cold towards Ha-ryu and protested that leftover fruit from the drinkers was not suitable to be given to her daughter. However, Ha-ryu argued that the fruit he brought for his daughter was not leftovers, but from the kitchen, completely untouched. While in the office, Ha-ryu followed Dahae with the phone she left behind. Worried that the events from 5 years ago might be uncovered, Ha-ryu tries to find a way to hide Dahae in a safer place. He wanted to find her an apartment not far from her office. Dahae refused to live in the apartment due to the high rental cost. After she found out that Yong Hyun kept looking for her, she agreed. Dahae's home is across from Do-han's apartment. From the beginning, Do-han was very open about his interest in Dahae and promised to protect her if there were any troublesome stalkers in the apartment. In the evening, Do-han invited Dahae to dinner at his house and made her a delicious meal. He even refused his sister's invitation to dinner and chose to spend time with his forehead. That made Do-kyun feel angry as he realized Dahae was trying to get close to his younger brother. The next day at the office, Dahae received the unpleasant news that director Do-kyung fired her without reason. Even though all this time, her performance had been outstanding.
과장님, 무슨 일이세요? 왜 갑자기...
Unwilling to accept being fired, Dahae opposes Do-kyung's decision. She is humiliated by the director for seducing his brother. Humiliated, Dahae vows to take revenge on Do-kyung. Meanwhile, Do-han is in conflict with his father about hockey team disbandment, and his father is forcing him to continue his studies in America for an MGA degree. A severe accident occurred Do-han while he was chasing his father, resulting in a leg injury. Result, he may not be able to play hockey. After being declared paralyzed, Do-han followed orders to continue his studies in America. Before leaving, he took the time to say goodbye to Dahae and asked her to follow him there.
다음 주에 미국 가요.
In order to pursue her ambition to indeed follow Do-han, Dahae even urged her husband to finance her and continue her studies in America. That is the reason why she refused Ha-ryu's request to officially register their marriage. To comply with Dahae, Ha-ryu was forced to return as a nightclub entertainer. This time, he has to be ready to be tortured by director Park, who had an argument with him recently. With a heavy heart, he indeed allowed his wife to study abroad so she could have a better future. However, it turns out that while living in America, Dahae spent her time getting cozy with Do-hun and hiding her identity, claiming that she didn't have a boyfriend. 1 year later, during the summer vacation, she made an excuse not to return to Korea. Also, she could be with Do-hun, who had just proposed to her. The two of them kissed and enjoy a happy day amid Ha-ryu's suffering in Korea. Feeling his life is constrained, Ha-ryu often runs out of money because he has to send his money to Dahae. Even to pay for medical expenses and buy home, he was forced to accompany an official who often treated him unfairly. While crying, Ha-ryu accepted millions of won in cash from the official lady after spending the night with her. In the following year, as if having forgotten everything, Dahae and Do-hun returned home and planned to marry after their masters. A ring was already on Dahae's ring finger, and they were preparing to hold their wedding in Korea. Both of them went home, and even Dahae did not tell Ha-ryu anything because she was trying to forget her husband. Ha-eun-bail, missing her mother, asked her father to make a phone call. An American woman answered, saying Dahae had just flown to Korea. Between happiness and surprise, Ha-ryu awaits the arrival of his wife. Meanwhile, when she arrived in Korea, Dahae was booked a hotel by Do-hun, while he went home to tell them about his wedding plans with Dahae. When Dahae was trying to avoid Ha-ryu, Ha-eun-bail saw her at the hotel and told her she saw Dahae.
미국에서 왔나? 아야, 저기요.
The woman had completely forgotten her husband and even her daughter, who had been waiting for her all day on the hill, to the point of experiencing hypothermia and respiratory issues due to the cold. After tirelessly searching, Ha-ryu finally found his wife and hoped they could be happy again like before. However, having been seduced by luxury and not wanting to deal with Ha-ryu anymore, Dahae immediately said harsh words that she wanted to divorce Ha-ryu.
할 수도 있는 일이잖아.
Spontaneously, Ha-ryu slapped her. He didn't know how much he had sacrificed all this time for Dahae, yet so easily, that woman wanted a divorce just when she had found happiness elsewhere. Dahae tried to escape from Ha-ryu until her husband tried breaking the car door with a fire extinguisher tank. Ha-ryu was forced to spend several days in jail. After meeting father, aunt, and brother, Do-hun is preparing to introduce Dahae. When meeting Dahae at the hotel, Do-kyung firmly refused that. When Do-hun saw it, Do-kyung slapped Dahae and splashed her face with a glass of water. She was completely disgusted by the way that girl approached her younger brother and even followed him to America for years. Even though Do-kyung hates her, but the president and Jimmy's aunt like Dahae. Both of them constantly praised the girl's intelligence, saying she was good at getting along with new people. Dahae's father, who admired Dahae, asked Do-kyung to give a position to his future son-in-law at the office.
주다혜라고 합니다.
주다혜.
After being released, Ha-ryu refused to quit trying to meet Dahae. This time, he even knelt down, but his wife still rejected him, arguing that an educated woman like her was not suitable to be with an entertainer like Ha-ryu. That made Ha-ryu cry and feel really devastated. Ha-ryu is trying hard to persuade him as his daughter Ha-eun-bail is sick.
그치만 너 나랑은 남이라도 은별이한테는 엄마잖아.
Honestly, Dahae's instincts as a mother miss her daughter. However, her greed had blinded her, and she saw her daughter as an obstacle to her career. The only way to persuade Dahae is by taking her to the place where her father is buried. She was immediately very shocked and couldn't forget the incident at that time. However, she went back to acting like everything was fine. Do-hun called her to attend a dinner at his house. With her clothes still messy and her feet dirty after stepping in mud, Dahae gets ready to put on a good face and appear in front of her boyfriend's family.
안녕하셨어요?
어서 와. 식사하자고.
Ha-ryu tries to start a new chapter and burn all memories of Dahae. He is looking for a job at Horse Farm not far from the project where Do-kyung will establish a horse racing resort. At the ranch, he was assigned caring for a horse named Lisa, owned by Do-kyung. The two seem familiar as Ha-ryu is good with animals.
덕분에 일하게 됐습니다. 고맙습니다.
Meanwhile, at the Baekha Group office, Dae was appointed as a manager overseeing the luxurious Baiwal resort. He knew the area very well because that was where she buried her stepfather's body. During this survey, Dae turned pale because she was worried her crime would be discovered. She fainted, causing Do-hun, who was aware of her condition, to quarrel with his brother. He thinks his older sister is pushing Dae too hard and using her as an outlet for her hatred. With might, Dae blocks the horse racing project, backs a resort. She proposes the protected forest become a conservation area to preserve the environment. All day, Dae lurks at Ha-ryu's house. He pleaded with Ha-ryu to help him cover up his father's death case. However, Ha-ryu is now acting cold and ignoring her. He wants Dae to end her plan and turn herself in police. The next day, during an excavation in the Baiwal Hill area, a buried human skeleton was found. And after being identified, it was the body of Suk Taek-il, Dae's father. For investigation, Dae and Ha-ryu were presented, and the woman was uneasy in front of the authorities. She tried to deny it, but the evidence increasingly cornered her as two phones were found there, namely her phone and Ha-ryu's. Because she was nervous, Dae blamed Ha-ryu, leading to Ha-ryu being arrested by the police and declared a suspect. She told police that Ha-ryu held a personal grudge against him after their divorce. Ha-ryu, who was playing with his daughter gifting her new bicycle, asked his aunt and Taek-bae to keep this arrest a secret and take care of his daughter while he is detained. However, there were no fingerprints. Dae tried to persuade Ha-ryu to admit she was not involved in killing her stepfather, only in disposing of the body.
대신 사체 유기죄만 인정해.
When interrogated, Ha-ryu kept denying, but he was convinced by Dae assuring Ha-eun-bil would be safe as long as she was by her side. In the end, he admitted that he was not involved in the crime, and the judge decided to sentence him to 4 years. As promised, Dae will take care of Ha-eun-bil and find the best school in America. She wants to escape while this case is under investigation. On the other hand, Do-kyung receives news from manager Kim that Dae is a family member of the victim whose remains were found on the hill, but he suspects that Dae is involved and feels scared because she opposes the development on the hill. She remembered Dae's shoes got muddy. Pressuring Dae, Do-kyung threatened to expose the mastermind behind this case to remove her from Do-hun's side. However, Dae denied that she would distance herself from Do-hun in any way and go to America. She accepted Dae's plan for America and banned her in front of his family.
이 말 하려고 온 거야. 제발 우리 가져가.
When Dae picks up and invites Ha-eun-bil for a walk, Aunt Jimmy sees them and realizes that Dae already has a princess's nest. She then tells Do-kyung about it to gain an advantage. Dae says goodbye to Aunt Hong and Taek-bae to pack Ha-eun-bil's belongings. She promised to take care of her daughter and to strive to give her the best education. She also told her daughter that her father had become a convict.
아빠도 같이 가는 거야?
The next day, Dae, getting ready to leave the apartment, met Do-hun, shocked to learn Dae was planning to go to America without his knowledge. The two of them hugged because Do-hun was trying to protect her. Bi-hong and Taek-bae saw their affection and were annoyed seeing Dae hugging a man. She came to see Ha-eun-bil off prior to leaving for America. Dae was negligent in watching Ha-eun-bil, who was playing, until the child lost her life after being hit by a passing truck. In the detention center, Ha-ryu received news and briefly went home to accompany his daughter's departure to her final resting place. In front of his daughter's body, he cried uncontrollably, and Dahae watched him with a blank stare full of guilt. Phoebe Hong, who couldn't accept Ha-en Bile's departure, kept crying while hitting Dahae and striking her harshly. As he was about to return to the detention cell, Ha-ryu, angry, blamed Dahae for Ha-en Bile's death. She had broken her promise, leading to her daughter's tragedy.
내가 절대 용서 못해.
Out of frustration, Ha-ryu vented his anger on the senior inmates, leading to a fist fight between the two. However, in the evening, the two made peace and shared their issues. It turns out that the prisoner Sando was previously in jail because he was framed, and he tells that he had been negligent in taking care of his 7-year-old daughter until the girl died. Both of them share the same fate, so Sando tries to comfort Ha-ryu so that he can take revenge on Dahae once he is released. He asked Ha-ryu to study after being released. He could work well in the group and ruin Dahae's life.
작사를 내야지.
예.
Time passed. Due to her perseverance, Dahae's career soared even higher. She became the focus of media attention for establishing a charitable foundation that funds schools for orphans and shelters for the homeless. Amidst her busy schedule, she took the time to visit Ha-ryu in the detention cell and laughed with a sense of victory. Ha-ryu said that her career would never last long. Worried that Ha-ryu might ruin her plans, Dahae, with a sad face, complained to Yang Hyun that Ha-ryu threatened her, leading her stepbrother to promise to eliminate Ha-ryu if he gets released. In months, Ha-ryu will be free, and he is preparing to take revenge for his heartbreak. Navi Sando began teaching Ha-ryu how to start a revenge plan by approaching Do Kyung, and getting to know her personally, she would be won over by him. Initially, Ha-ryu was unsure, but he started to get excited because he remembered that he had met Do Kyung several times before at horse racing events.
안녕하세요.
As time goes by, Dahae's career is now increasingly brilliant at Baekha Group. She also became known as a role model in society thanks to her strong sense of social responsibility. However, Ha-ryu prepared for his mission. It's a matter of time till Ha-ryu be released from detention. Ha-ryu sent many messages to her. If he were free, then Dahae could not live peacefully. At the same time, Ha-ryu also sent a letter to Do Kyung stating that he was the scapegoat in the case of Dahae's father's death, which made Do Kyung even more curious about him and prepared to go to Aunt Han's house. Meanwhile, Jung, who had found Ha-ryu's whereabouts, came to visit him in prison. The two embraced, emotionally supporting each other.
이제 찾았네.
To his twin brother, Juang indeed promised to deliver justice for him. Juang is a well-renowned prosecutor known for his idealism in handling various cases. How happy his father was when he heard that Juang had been found, but he hasn't informed him that his twin brother is still being held. He is happy to meet his sibling, and Juang will soon be getting married to his beloved. Hearing the news of Ha-ryu's release, Yang Hyun, who harbors a grudge, prepares to eliminate him. However, he mistakenly targeted the wrong person, thinking Juang was Ha-ryu. Yang Hyun kidnapped Juang, then beat him on snow-covered ground. Nasnya, Juang finally lost his life after hitting a rock, and Yang Hyun immediately buried him to erase the traces. After eliminating Juang, Yang Hyun informed Dahae that she need not worry because Ha-ryu is now gone.
그 새끼가 죽어버렸잖아.
It turns out that their conversation was overheard by Ha-ryu and Samdu. At that moment, Ha-ryu wanted to eliminate Dahae, but Samdu stopped him and suggested that Ha-ryu pretend to be dead and take on Juang's identity as a prosecutor. He is determined never to let go of Dahae, who has eliminated his daughter and also his twin. As a master con artist with ease, Samdu escorts Ha-ryu's revenge mission. First, he created a scandal about an illicit affair between Do-hun and a young actress. The beautiful artist was caught kissing Do-hun and blackmailing Do-hun, threatening to spread the intimate photos. Not stopping there, Ha-ryu tries to get closer to Do-kyung by pretending to hitch a ride, then leaves his wallet so that Do-kyung will contact him as a prosecutor. It didn't take long. Do-kyung went to his office and asked for the scandal between Do-hun and the artist to be resolved.
차 변호사님께 사건도 하나 의뢰할까요?
To terrorize Dahae, Ha-ryu briefly appeared at her office, making his ex-wife think she had just seen a ghost. However, Yong-hyun assured her that it was just a hallucination because he was convinced that Ha-ryu was dead and he himself had buried him. As a gesture of gratitude for his case being resolved, Do-hun invites Juang to have lunch together. When Do-hun introduced Ha-ryu as Juang's lawyer, Dahae was truly astonished to see him. It's like seeing a ghost. That's Dahae's expression. She tries to avoid it, but Ha-ryu acts as if nothing is happening. Neither of them had to enjoy the meal as Dahae rushed to the bathroom nervously.
실례하겠습니다.
She was very sure that the person in front of her was Ha-ryu pretending to be a prosecutor. She wants to lure out Ha-ryu by selling Aunt Han's house and then ask him to solve this case. She was so bold to come to Juang's office and asked for his fingerprint to verify his identity. However, Sando quickly moved to manipulate the fingerprint so that Ha-ryu wouldn't be discovered.
이런 거 하실 때가 아니에요.
To ensure his death, Dahae rushed to where Yong-hyun buried Ha-ryu by the river. Silently, Ha-ryu followed him crying. He promised to avenge all of Dahae's wrongdoings against his twin. Meanwhile, Ha-ryu met for the first time with the father and Soo-young, the fiancé of his late twin. He was nervous, especially when he heard his father's regret for having separated them.
애비를 안 만날 기라 짐작은 했.
So that father wouldn't ask again about Ha-ryu's condition. He lied that Ha-ryu was sailing to a foreign land. Before leaving for Germany on business, Soo-young wants to have a little fun with her fiancé. That made Ha-ryu feel nervous, making him keep avoiding it. The girl asked her fiancé if he was ready, because soon there would be a family meeting to discuss the wedding date. At that time, Ha-ryu was really confused and confided in Sando about how to deal with Soo-young. Sando advised him to end things with Soo-young and focus on getting closer to Do-kyung.
꼬실 여자 백도경.
As a token of appreciation for solving Do-kyung's case, Do-kyung invited him for dinner together. Following Sando's guidance, Ha-ryu was very skilled in starting a conversation with Do-kyung to win her heart. Although he seemed to support his son's relationship with Dahae, secretly the president was matchmaking Do-hun with the daughter of a well-known politician. They held a special meeting, and Dahae overheard it from the room's booth after Aunt Jimmy informed her. Do-hun, who did not accept the plan, immediately made a statement across all media that he would marry Dahae, not the politician's child. As a result of this news, the president was criticized by the politician, and his company was threatened with bankruptcy. He panicked and asked Do-kyung to find him.
주다에 떨어뜨려 놓을 방법이 있다고 했잖아.
The only proper way for Do-kyung to bring down Dahae is by revealing her past and seeking information related to Ha-ryu. She then contacts lawyer Juang, who is none other than Ha-ryu, to uncover the death of Dahae's stepfather. While at Do-kyung's office, Dahae and Ha-ryu sat, and the three of them talked about finding Dahae's stepfather's skeleton and Ha-ryu.
주다혜 씨가 교도소로 하루 씨를 찾아가.
His name was mentioned. Ha-ryu couldn't hide his anxiety. Dahae worried her secret would be revealed. How shocked Do-kyung was when she opened the file about Ha-ryu's identity and saw the face in the photo looked exactly like Prosecutor Juang. Initially, Ha-ryu was nervous, but in the end, he tried to stay calm after realizing his fate was in Do-kyung's hands. With a devastated face, he admitted that Ha-ryu was his twin brother, whom he had been searching for years. He was so shocked after finding out his sister was part of the tragedy in the murder years back. In front of Do Kyung and Dahae, he promised to find Haryu as soon as possible because he and his father missed his twin much.
그때부터 쌍둥이 동생을 찾았는데
The wedding date for Do-han and Dahae is the beginning of next month. Dahae is ordering the wedding dress and handbook. Meanwhile, Do-han has decided which venue will be rented for the blessing ceremony. That, of course, made Do Kyung angry and want to stop it. In the end, she agreed to Haryu's plan to pretend to be her boyfriend and introduce him to the president. Because Do-han himself promised to postpone the wedding if his older sibling already had a partner. In the evening, Haryu joined dinner with the director's family. He was not nervous or awkward when answering questions about Juum's career as a renowned prosecutor. Because previously, Haryu had learned many things. Even Do-han looked so delighted when he found out that indeed his older sister was in a special relationship with a prosecutor. He didn't hesitate to call Haryu his brother-in-law. Their closeness made Dahae furious because her wedding was delayed. She tried to find evidence from the CCTV camera and monitored them. However, she lost after Haryu acted affectionately with Do Kyung. The two of them went for a walk and got a suit with Do Kyung, even putting a tie on Haryu. Still trying to find Haryu's weakness, Dahae goes to Aunt Han's shop. However, in the end, she abandoned her intention because Sando managed to deceive him and lied that Aunt and Taekbae had left for abroad. Meanwhile, inside the shop, Haryu was meeting his aunt and informing her that he was fine and preparing to gradually eliminate Dahae and torment her emotionally. One thing he hasn't resolved yet is Soo-young. Tonight, Haryu decided to break up with his late twin's girlfriend so as not to hinder his plans. The girl truly didn't understand why her boyfriend suddenly changed. In fact, her father had just landed in Seoul to discuss their wedding plans.
왜 그러냐고 왜?
Feeling responsible for his twin's death, Haryu wants Sando to quickly find the Juung service so he can give him a proper burial. Unhappy her wedding was delayed, Dahae tries to find Do Kyung's weaknesses and eventually discovers them. A package was delivered from the rehabilitation center explaining the news that a former athlete named Komjuk was declared dead 3 days ago. From the medical staff's explanation, Dahae discovered a series of shocking facts that Do Kyung is not Do-han's sister, but his biological mother. Meanwhile, Do-han's father is not the president of Baek Ha Group, but a hockey star named Kongjuk. With a triumphant smile, Dahae threatened that if Do Kyung continued to obstruct her marriage, she would reveal the secret to Do-han.
전무님도 도훈 씨의 누나가 아니라 엄마로 사셔야 할 거예요.
The threat successfully left Do Kyung unable to move. Especially after Dahae admitted that she has DNA test evidence of both that is almost 100% a match. As a result of the shock from Dahae's threat, Do Kyung chose to calm himself at a beach far from Seoul. She didn't inform anyone, which made Do-han worried and start looking for her. Because after her sister agreed to this marriage, he lost touch with her. Do-han immediately contacted Haryu at his office. Then he hurried to the beach and tried to persuade Do Kyung to come home.
도대체 갑자기 이러시는 이유가 뭡니까?
Haryu promised to make Dahae unable to smile throughout the wedding ceremony because he was the cause of his twin siblings' suffering. Feeling that they have aligned goals and both equally hate Dahae, Do Kyung and Haryu now agree to work together against Dahae. As promised, Haryu begins to take action, making Dahae anxious as the blessing ceremony approaches. She invited Aunt Hong and telephoned her, causing Dahae to run to meet Aunt Hong while wearing a wedding dress. Not stopping there, Haryu asked Sando to terrorize Dahae with his voice and congratulate her on the wedding, while he stood in front of her until the bride fainted before walking to the altar. However, Dahae was officially declared to hold the title as Do-han's wife and the daughter-in-law of the Baek family. Meanwhile, Seo-jung, who indeed felt that her lover had genuinely changed, tried to prove that the person standing before her wasn't Juang, but his twin Haya Ryu. She felt deceived, but in the end, she gave in after learning that Juang had actually lost his life at the hands of Dahae half-brother. After Juang's body was found, Soo-young could no longer hide her grief. He tries to remain strong in front of Dahae after learning that the reason Haya-Ryu took on his twin's identity was to seek revenge for the deaths of Juang and his daughter Ha-eun-bail.
복수하려고 하는 거라고요, 그게.
She who initially hated Haya-Ryu now wants to support his, upon realizing that Dahae is not an easy opponent to face. For Soo-young, Dahae does not deserve to marry and be happy after killing her fiancé. Honestly, Dahae didn't want to attend the funeral, but because Do Kyung insisted, she was eventually forced to be there, trembling. The next day, Ha-ryu came to Do Kyung's office, still in mourning and in need of support. He suddenly hugged Do Kyung, which surprised Dahae. Questioning the warmth from Ha-ryu, Do Kyung wants to end the pretend relationship, feeling that their goal was to prevent Do-han's marriage, but in reality, they still got married. In Do Kyung's heart, honestly, she still really needs Ha-ryu as someone who will support her against Dahae, but she realizes that her feelings of love shouldn't exist. Do-han's trust in Ha-ryu is growing stronger, but it is proportional to his wife, who despises him. Do-han wants to make Ha-ryu the legal advisor for Ha Group, but Dahae persuades her father to look for another lawyer, as long as it's not Ha-ryu. She put on an innocent face to her husband and chose to stay in America if her opinion was not heard.
우리 그냥 따로 나가 살까?
In order to be fully committed as a legal advisor, Ha-ryu diligently studied various literature books recommended by Soo-young. Watching how very enthusiastic Ha-ryu is about learning, Soo-young gets emotional and fondly remembers her fiancé, who has actually passed away. As an initial threat, he threatens Dahae by claiming that he is Ha-ryu, while Juang is already dead. He also intimidated the woman in her office, but Dahae rejected him harshly and called Ha-ryu disgusting for having taken his twin's identity as an act of revenge.
지금까지 차재영인 척 연극해놓고
Ha-ryu and Aunt Hong want to influence Do-han to reveal Dahae's true nature and tell him who funded her studies while she was in America. However, because he indeed trusts his wife so much, Do-han is not affected at all by Aunt's story. He boasted that he would return all the money that had been spent on funding Dahae's education, which offended the aunt.
자기한테 돈 보내주는 남자 한국에 있다고?
At that time, Aunt Han had just opened a Korean food stall using capital from Sando. He had just dug up the savings he had buried in the ground before going to prison. Although initially there was some resistance from various parties, in the end, Ha-ryu was still appointed as a legal advisor on the recommendation of Mayor Tae-hil, who is very close to President Baek. Ha-ryu rushed to the Baek family home upon hearing the shocking news on television that the president had suffered from food poisoning and had to undergo intensive treatment.
송될 당시 독극물 중독 상태였다고 밝혔습니다.
At the Baek family home, Do Kyung blames Dahae because she was the one overseeing the president taking medicine before experiencing poisoning. Feeling indignant, Dahae blamed her sister-in-law, saying Do Kyung trapped her to blame her for the incident that befell the president. A conflict was inevitable and unavoidable between Dahae and Do Kyung. Do-han consistently blamed his older sister and kept defending his wife. She rejected Do Kyung's hand, wanting to slap Dahae until Ha-ryu came to intervene between the two. Feeling indignant, Do-han then grabbed Ha-ryu because he didn't want anyone to blame his wife. When they were in a tense moment, President Baek came and smashed a ceramic cup to make them stop arguing. It turned out that the one who poisoned the chairman was Aunt Jimmy because she held a personal grudge against her brother. She put antifreeze into the CEO's drinking water before he took his medicine. While carrying out her actions, Bibi was caught by a servant named Mayong and asked Dahae to hide the servant before Ha-ryu caught him. He also bribed Mayong with a diamond ring to make him leave his job immediately. If Dahae is willing to cooperate and help her, Ant threatens that she will report to her family that Dahae has a little daughter. In the end, Dahae agrees to comply with her demands and keeps Mayong away from Ha-ryu until the case fades away. Afterwards, the president chooses to forgive the servant's actions. Realizing that his actions were quite harsh towards his sister and Ha-ryu, Do-hun tries to apologize to both of them. He gave Do-kyung her favorite anemone flowers and continued to visit the lawyer's office to apologize to Ha-ryu. He wants to make him his brother-in-law. Currently, Ha-ryu has regained sympathy from Do-kyung after fiercely defending in front of Do-hun. He promised to work wholeheartedly to protect Do-kyung and the Baek-ha group from the clutches of the cunning Dahae. The two of them became closer, like a pair of lovers. After dinner, Ha-ryu didn't hesitate to hold Do-kyung's hand and then hug her as a form of affection. While at the office, Ha-ryu confided in Sando that he wanted to bring Dahae down. However, he couldn't bring to hurt Do-kyung's feelings for revenge. However, Sando insists that Ha-ryu must not waver just because of feelings of compassion. Because the enemy is a very evil person and Ha-ryu must be able to become more evil than Dahae. To strengthen her position, Dahae aims to be the president-director of the Baek-ha Foundation by approaching Mayor Tae-hil and negotiating to make the mayor the president of the Republic of Korea. She wants to shift the position originally held by Do-kyung.
대통령을 붙여드리고 싶습니다.
Dahae and Do-kyung are fiercely competing for a position at the Baek-ha Foundation, a charitable organization that provides educational scholarships for outstanding students. Due to her cunning, Dahae ultimately won that position. Now the president-director trusts him not only as a son-in-law, but also as an important person in the family business. Disappointed with her father's decision, Do-kyung could only lament to Ha-ryu because now he is the only support he believes can defeat Dahae. Not only as the lawyer for Baek-ha Group, Ha-ryu also promised to be by Do-kyung's side wholeheartedly and to block Dahae's moves by any means necessary.
제가 맡겠습니다.
On Koi's father's special birthday, Soo-young asked Ha-ryu to celebrate it like Ju-young did. She also asked Ha-ryu to provide a photo of his twin to show he is sailing, so their father won't worry. The girl cried while singing and remembering her time with her lover. All night, he drank soju to forget his sadness. She desires not her, but his twin who is sailing away.
그냥 가도 된다니까요.
To shake Do-hun's feelings, Ha-ryu instructed Taek-bae to come to his office and talk about Dahae's life before she lived in America. He also provided a photo of Dahae with Ha and Vile, but Do-hun, who had trusted her, drove Taek-bae away and destroyed the photo before he had a chance to see it. Although he was so trusting in the end, Do-hun wavered when he saw Dahae's suspicious behavior as she was about to talk with Taek-bae.
너에게 무슨 일이야?
다혜는 어떻게 지내나 궁금해서 왔어.
He became wary of the closeness between Ha-ryu and Ant Hong and the connection between them and Dahae's past. After officially becoming the advisor to Baek-ha Group, Ha-ryu immediately threatened Dahae that he would drag her back to her dark past, and if necessary, he would die with her. However, as cunning as Dahae is, she knelt and was willing to do anything in front of Ha-ryu as long as he didn't interfere with her plans.
난 더한 것도 할 수 있어.
Both of them were nervous hearing Do-hun enter Dahae's room. Upon seeing his wife and future brother-in-law together, Do-hun became unsettled and started to suspect that his wife was hiding something from him. He immediately confirmed and went to Aunt Hong's shop to ask if the man who sent Dahae's tuition fee was really Prosecutor Ju-young. However, Aunt Hong dodges and prepares to reveal Dahae's past. Do-hun refused to listen and didn't need information about Dahae's past because he had complete trust in his wife no matter what happened. Due to Ha-ryu's threat, Dahae reported it to Yang Hyun and asked him to use her father as a tool to threaten Ha-ryu. When Hyun took Mr. Koi out for lunch, he served high-quality wine, which is certainly very dangerous for those suffering from heart and liver conditions. Spontaneously, Mr. Koi fainted and was rushed to the hospital.
위험한 고비는 넘기셨어요.
Knowing that Mr. Koi's condition is worsening, Soo-young wants Ha-ryu to immediately stop his quest for revenge before those close to him become victims. She wants Ha-ryu to report to the police, but Ha-ryu doesn't want Dahae to be caught that easily. He remembers the car his brother was in when he was kidnapped had already been destroyed by Do-hun to eliminate the evidence. He actually asked Soo-young for help to attract Dahae's attention and find her weaknesses. Because Soo-young is the daughter of the mayor and Dahae never suspected her.
우리가 손 놓고 있는 게 아니란 걸 이해해 주세요.
Ha relocked Dahae in the warehouse before a key meeting with the president before her inauguration as chairman of the Baek-ha Foundation. Before getting locked in, the two slapped and blamed themselves for past mistakes. As a result, Dahae was late for the meeting, and Do-hun, who found her locked in, became suspicious because he was sure his wife was hiding a secret. To observe Ha-ryu's movements, Dahae installed a surveillance camera in his office. She was caught by Do-hun, but in the end, she was still able to soften her husband with her very pitiful face until Do-hun felt guilty for having suspected her.
미안해. 그런 거 아니야.
As the moments leading up to the inauguration ceremony approach, Ha-ryu is back in action by threatening Dahae he will spread photos of her with Ha and Bile publicly. The scared Dahae left the hotel and headed to the warehouse, making her late for her speech. The delay made the president-director very upset, and he considered Dahae to be an irresponsible person. Before Dahae took the podium, Ha-ryu threatened her with an audio recording of Dahae related to Juong's kidnapping and took Mr. Koi to drink wine with Yong-hyun. The threat made Dahae feel nervous during her speech and follow Ha-ryu's orders to announce in front of all the attendees that she refused to be inaugurated as the president of the Baek-ha Foundation.
죄송합니다.
All the people were stunned by Dahae's decision not to be the chairperson until they left the room because the event was disappointing. Do-kyung felt surprised and happy, and she wondered how Ha-ryu managed to conquer Dahae, causing her to change from being ambitious to becoming timid. With a victorious smile, Ha-ryu asserted that he promised not to let Dahae take away her rights. The two of them became closer, and now Do-kyung dares to hug Ha-ryu and promises to reveal all the secrets of her life to Ha-ryu when her heart is ready. The togetherness of the two was accidentally seen by Soo-young, leading the girl to warn Ha-ryu not to use a woman's feelings of love as bait for revenge.
정말 백두경 전무. 좋아.
In an emotional state after being humiliated by Dahae, President Baek slapped her. However, he didn't want his son to see this and told him to leave the room, else explained to his father-in-law. Kini Dahae made Jimmy's aunt a scapegoat. She admitted that Jimmy's aunt had threatened him because she knew that Do-hun was the biological child of Do-kyung, not her brother. She also mentioned that it was Jimmy's aunt who had put antifreeze poison into the president's drink. Hearing, the director got furious and demanded Myong to witness. Myong sided with Jimmy's aunt, bribed him with a diamond necklace.
웃겨 진짜.
When Ha-ryu tries to contact Yong-hyun and explain to him that Dahae is the perpetrator of his father's murder, he was actually trapped and beaten up badly by Yong-hyun and his men. No matter how long it takes, Yong-hyun will always trust Dahae more than Ha-ryu. Aunt Jimmy even embarrassed her by pouring water on him. Meanwhile, Do-kyung kicked her out of house because she was angry after Dahae explained her past scandal to the president. Not stopping there, Do-hun was cold towards her for days after suspecting her closeness with prosecutor Juum. He even followed his wife and Ha-ryu, who at that time came to Ha En-bile's funeral. Although initially emotional to Ha-ryu, after suspecting the two of them were having an affair, Ha-ryu explained that Dahae was the ex-wife of his twin, the cause of Ha En-bile's death. In front of Do-hun, Ha-ryu could smile with satisfaction after explaining a past of Dahae and how cunning that woman was for deceiving him just to pursue wealth. In an emotional state, Do-hun grilled Dahae and tried to find honesty in her eyes. However, he now realizes that Dahae has been betraying him. A slap suddenly landed on Dahae's cheek. He couldn't believe that the woman he loved and trusted so much had betrayed him for years just for wealth.
아니야, 다 아니라고!
Not wanting Do-hun to leave her, Dahae knelt before Ha-ryu and begged him to help persuade Do-hun. This time, Ha-ryu can no longer help her because Dahae's crime is so great. President Baek asked Ha-ryu to handle divorce of Do-hun and Dahae. He really can't forgive Dahae's actions anymore, who has sown discord between him and his older sister and has humiliated him in front of a board of directors. To celebrate the joy of Dahae's defeat, Ha-ryu managed to buy back his house that had previously been sold by that woman. He traces every memory with Ha and Vile. How happy they are living, simply yet able to smile without burdens. Indeed. Before her father went too far, Do-hun just gave Dahae a plane ticket to America. He has come to terms with this separation. With a heavy heart, Dahae accepted the ticket and promised to vanish from Do-hun's sight. From the top of the building, he shouted, seeing the plane pass by. Mayor Handak announced to the public that he would be running as a presidential candidate in the upcoming election. Followed by Dahae, who was always indeed truly by his side, he delivered his fiery speech that made everyone present applause. He declared a variety of sweet promises to win the sympathy of the people. Seeing that, Dahae smiled happily. She then recalled the incident that she vividly experienced 1 year ago, when her life suddenly fell into ruin. Do-hun was seen meeting Dahae in the park. The two were involved in an argument. Do-hun learned Dahae had been lying to him all this time. However, despite repeatedly hiding the truth, Dahae never ended up telling the truth, which led to Do-hun's anger, until the man considered her and left Dahae alone. After Do-hun's departure, Dahae walked down the road and encountered a group of people in a car that stopped beside her. The people then took Dahae to President Baek's house. It turns out that Ha-ryu was there, who apparently was also waiting for Dahae's arrival. After Dahae sat down, President Baek told Ha-ryu to take out the documents prepared, which turned out to be a divorce letter okayed by the court. President Director Baek stressed the relationship between Dahae and Baek Ha Group has ended. Dahae opposed the divorce papers, but Ha-ryu insisted on approving them immediately. After the divorce papers were handed over to Ha-ryu, President Baek expelled Dahae to leave Korea. And if they don't comply, then Dahae will be buried alive.
외국으로 떠나. 알겠지?
After quickly leaving President Baek's residence, Dahae took a taxi to a villa. In the middle of the journey, she remembered Baek Ha would help support Taeil's presidential run. At that time, the president advised him and Ha-ryu to ensure it doesn't get revealed that Baek Ha is helping one of the candidates in the presidential election. Because if it gets exposed, the Baek Ha Group will be finished in an instant.
백하이 끝나버릴 수 있다는 걸 명심하고.
Dahae remembered document she read and meant to steal it. She then went to the big house and ran off with 2 suitcases from the safe hidden behind a painting. Dahae then checked the contents of President Baek's suitcase and found a video recording of a conversation between the president and Mayor Taeil. She smiled while copying some files and then burned the documents he found. Meanwhile, Do-hun and Do-kyung, who were drinking at the bar, received a phone call informing them that President Baek was hospitalized due to shock caused by Dahae's actions. Do-kyung tries to calm the president, which only makes him angrier and more tense because he is now facing a major crisis due to Dahae's mistake. Ha-ryu calls Dahae and plays the recording of Dahae's conversation with Yong-hyun about the murder case of his twin. Dahae heard her voice, surprised. She immediately turned off her phone. Dahae found out that previously, Ha-ryu, with the help of some friends, secretly installed a recording device when Dahae met Do-hun at a cafe. Ha-ryu apparently did that to bring down Dahae. After thinking for a moment, Dahae contacted Ha-ryu again, inviting him to meet for a fair exchange. Ha-ryu handed over the recording and the suitcase of President Baek. However, Do-hun appeared and replaced Ha-ryu to approach Dahae. Her face, which appeared sad, then approached Dahae. While asking her if she had ever truly loved him all this time,
나 사랑했니?
Do-hun, who had previously overheard that the person he had always thought of as his older sister was actually his biological mother, felt deeply hurt, especially after he found out that his mother was threatened by Dahae not to approve marriage. Dahae doesn't care Do-hun's question. She had already warned him not to come closer or even open the car door that was between them. However, Do-hun didn't listen, and suddenly there was a big explosion. Dahae was trembling from shock, and Do-hun, who was hit by the explosion, was thrown and lost consciousness. Dahae was about to call an ambulance with her stolen cell phone. However, she changed his mind and quickly walked towards the public phone far from him. Ha-ryu, to the unconscious Do-hun, did the same. Dahae then left anxiously. On the way, she decided to dispose of the phone she used to contact Ha-ryu so that there would be no trace of the accident. Because Dahae kept avoiding him, Ha-ryu then went to Do-hun. He took the man's phone and contacted Dahae to come to a park. Because he didn't know that it was Ha-ryu who contacted her, Dahae went to that park. Without waiting long, Ha-ryu immediately surrendered himself to the police station and handed him over to the authorized detective. Ha-ryu said that Dahae is the suspect and he has evidence in the form of phone records on his cell phone. The detective then asked about the witnesses in the incident. Ha-ryu explained that both of them are witnesses who were at the crime scene.
거짓말하지 마. 주다혜 넌 그 현장에 있었잖아.
In the investigation, Dahae was unwilling to cooperate. He kept insisting repeatedly that he had absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the incident. Seeing this, Ha-ryu was deeply hurt. The detective didn't find any evidence of Dahae's involvement and allowed the woman to leave. Out of frustration, Ha-ryu came to the office feeling angry. He then went to visit Do-hun, who was still unconscious, which further wounded Ha-ryu's spirit.
좋은 친구처럼 잘 지낼 수 있었을까?
After visiting the hospital, Ha-ryu drank at a soju bar. He remembers when Do-hun asked for permission to call him Ian and recalls the familiarity and disagreements that occurred because Ha-ryu once messed around with his documents.
우리한테 뭐 하는 거야 지금?
While Ha-ryu is engulfed in sadness, and guilt Dahae, on the other hand, continues to move quickly to realize all her plans. She traveled by air with the mayor, because according to Dahae, the 14-hour flight to New York was the safest place for her at the moment. It was then that she asked the mayor to run for president. She also said that the mayor need not worry about President Baek, as she had a weapon to defeat him.
대한민국 다음 대통령은 석태일입니다.
After meeting with the mayor, planning next steps, Dahae visited the hospital where Do-hun was being treated. While shedding tears, Dahae touched Do-hun's cheek, who was still unconscious. After Dahae left, Duk-young came to Do-hun's room. She felt Do-hun's fingers move and then go still again. It was at that moment that she realized something was wrong. The hand movement Do-hun just made is him way of saying goodbye. News of Do-hun's death spread quickly. Dahae, who found out through the news she read, could only remain silent while holding back her feelings. Avoiding sadness, Dahae then moved on to strategize again. She then approached President Baek, and without any shame, she immediately showed the secret video recording with Taeil. After ensuring that President Baek is under her control, Dahae approaches the mayor to plan her candidacy. There he meets Soo Young, Mayor's daughter, asked by Hya-Roo to approach Dahae, as she is the only one who can do it without arousing suspicion.
주다 옆에 있어줘요.
네?
Do-kyung is angry as some people seem to be packing Do-hun's belongings. She said that he would be the one to do it herself. She walked towards the desk, and there Do-kyung discovered a secret that had apparently been known by Do-hun all along. It turns out he knew that Hya-Ryu was in disguise. Do-kyung visits Ha-Ryu and asks him why he did all this, which turns out to be because he wants revenge.
복수하기 위해서였습니다.
That's a flashback to the events of a year ago, before Dahae was finally able to accompany the mayor in running for president in the upcoming election. After holding a meeting, Dahae walked alone down the company corridor. Unexpectedly, she met Do-kyung, who intentionally approached her while carrying a pair of scissors. Dahae hadn't a chance to speak when she realized something was stabbing her in the stomach. She could only groan in pain while Do-kyung watched with a feeling of anger. At the same time, Ha-Ryu, searching for Dahae's whereabouts, was shocked when he saw that incident. He pulled Do-kyung and led her away from the scene. Dahae was taken to the hospital while Do-kyung was taken to the police station for questioning. Based on the officer's statement, Do-kyung did not expect the victim would file a lawsuit. Dahae, who has been released from the hospital, continues her plan. She visited to heal and said that the house for the election victory had already been prepared.
선거 캠프가 차려졌으니 이제 본격적인 시작이네요.
Even though she knew President Baek wouldn't agree, Dahae remained calm because she held all of President Baek's secrets, which she believed would be useful. That's how Dahae gathered support. Tahil gathered them all to announce that they were no longer members of Baek, but had been replaced with the name Saktahil Supporters Association. Unfortunately, after returning from that meeting, Dahae was confronted by two men who then took her to an unfamiliar place. That's where Dahae was held captive. The people who took her earlier were sent by Do-kyung. Meanwhile, Ha-Ryu returned to the police station and appeared upset, as the detective just remained silent. He even vented his severe anger. After leaving the police station, Ha-Ryu, informed about Dae-hee and Do-kyung, rushed to them. He was surprised to see that Do-kyung acted recklessly. Do-kyung went as far as pouring Dahae with gasoline and nearly set her on fire. However, Ha-Ryu convinced Do-kyung that he would take care of Dahae and make sure she received a fitting punishment.
여기는 제가 잘 처리할 테니까 걱정하지 마.
After Do-kyung left, he approached Dahae and offered a deal. Ha-Ryu promised to let Dahae go if she was willing to hand over all the documents belonging to President Baek. The next day, Ha-Ryu had an appointment with Tahil and Dahae. Tahil asks about Ha-Ryu, who has been disguising himself as a prosecutor none other than his late twin. She appeared awkward times when Dahae was beside her. Fortunately, Soo Young arrived and saved her from the exhausting situation.
그리고 차 변호사님은 그 사람 누군지도 모른단 말이에요.
After returning the files of President Baek, Ha-Ryu went back to meet the detective on Do-hun's case. He has not given up yet and continues to investigate parts of the case, including the rental of an unregistered car, the making of a homemade bomb, and goods exchange. He is confident he can defeat Dahae and make the woman admit her actions.
남영사님, 다시 수사해 주십시오.
Unfortunately, none of that was easy. Dahae is not a careless person without preparation. All of her plans had always been carefully structured. However, there is no plan that doesn't succeed. Even though he had prepared everything and anticipated various possibilities, Ha-Ryu found a breakthrough. Thanks to the help of the detective and friends, Ha-Ryu finally managed to gather evidence and irregularities that had never been considered before.
노숙자한테 대포차 샀다고 자백 받았어.
Once the evidence gathered, the detective asked Dahae to the police station. Ha Ryu was already there waiting for her. Upon arriving at the police station, the detective interrogated Dahae. Unfortunately, the woman kept staying silent, even after the detective questioned repeatedly on her involvement in the murder of her ex-husband.
정말 미치겠네, 진짜.
She had no intention of answering and just kept a straight face. When Dahae was continuously pressured to speak up, Yang Hyun suddenly came forward to turn himself in. He confessed to the detective that he committed all the crimes himself and that Dahae had nothing to do with it.
주당엔 아무 죄 없습니다. 다 내가 한 짓입니다.
Hearing his stepbrother's words, Dahae looked on in disbelief. Previously, he had never instructed Yang Hyun to do that. She never expected her brother to act so recklessly without telling her first. After that confession, Yang Hyun was taken into custody, while Dahae was released and immediately left the police station. At the same time, Dahae meets Ha Ryu, who rushes to the police station upon learning what happened. Both of them fell silent, as if they were expressing their feelings through their gaze. There was a clear sense of hatred radiating from the way they looked at each other. Ha Ryu then hurriedly went in and met with the detective who was going to take Yang Hyun to prison. She held Yang Hyun's hand and asked why the man was bearing everything alone.
왜 당신이 혼자 다 뒤집어 쓰려고 그래?
Yang Hyun did not answer. He chose to sacrifice himself to protect his younger sibling and did not want others to interfere with the reason he created. Returning from the police station, Ha Ryu tells Do Kyung all that happened. Do Kyung's emotions were no longer contained because Ha Ryu did not keep his promise to eliminate Dahae and instead just let her leave arrogantly. Ha Ryu could remain silent because he realized that he had failed.
거기에 대해선
After calming herself, Dahae visited the prison where Yang Hyun was jailed. She promised to bring the best lawyer for her brother and to free him as soon as possible. Dahae then met with Taehyul and immediately received the news that the high-ranking officials she thought were under her control were actually starting to leave her one by one. They refused to be threatened by someone like Dahae, who is deemed to have no power at all. At that moment, Taehyul was truly devastated. After everyone left, Dahae explained she no longer had the important documents belonging to President Baek. However, she told Taehyul not to think too much about it because she already had another plan. Dahae then visited President Baek, apparently intending to show her scar and threatened to tell everyone that President Baek had indeed committed a crime. Feeling pressured and guilty to involve his child, President Baek finally agreed to accept Dahae's request, which he referred to as a form of compensation. Dahae even asked for an amount of 500 million. After her request was granted, Dahae looked very satisfied and immediately left. She met Do Kyung, who had just entered the house and seemed displeased with her arrival because Dahae was so brazen and shameless for daring to approach her father.
우리 집에 네가 어떻게 발을 들여?
Upstairs, Jimmy's aunt is also carefully watching them and has a suspicion that Dahae is hiding something that could threaten the president. It turns out that the money Dahae received from the president will be used to buy a party to support Taehyul's candidacy, which she will announce soon.
집권당 대표가 되실 수도 있습니다.
While Taehyul is busy with his candidacy, President Baek chooses to delegate the company's leadership to Do Kyung. He also asked them to always involve Ha Ryu even though they knew that Ha Ryu was not a real lawyer. Meanwhile, home, Ha Ryu is celebrating with his father, who still thinks that the person always with him is lawyer Juang. He asked Ha Ryu to invite his friends for dinner together. Ha Ryu invited those who have been instrumental in his life.
그러니까 다들 정신을 똑바로
After making preparations, they indeed acted and treated Ha Ryu as if he were truly the lawyer. While having a meal together, Ha Ryu's father suddenly remembered Soo Young, who is Juang's girlfriend. He invited her, but unfortunately, she declined.
아버님 오늘 제가 급한 일이 있어서요. 다음에 갈게요.
At that time, Soo-young was holding back feelings of disappointment as her father was playing dirty by accepting a bribe. Do-kyung, fed up with Dahae's behavior, approached Ha-ryu and asked him to exact revenge against Dahae. She wants to see Dahae fall so she can no longer do as she pleases. Moreover, Dahae came in a very calm, relaxed, and nonchalant manner to blackmail her and indeed threatened to reveal a fact that Do-kyung didn't know about her father. Do-kyung was indifferent. She kept saying she wouldn't give money to Dahae and told her to leave now. However, Dahae did not give up. She provoked Do-kyung by saying that her father was a murderer.
살인자라는 거 알고 있어요?
When asking for Ha-ryu's help, Do-kyung realized that the man already knew her father's secret. Ha-ryu tries to calm Do-kyung, not to worry as he will find a way to make Dahae stop blackmailing him. He reviewed videos and documents on Uncle Jimmy's husband's murder target. Ha-ryu is determined that he must find the truth before President Baek goes to turn himself in. In the end, he discovered a loophole that there was another name hidden by Taehil who was involved in the murder. He then contacted the family and asked for help to keep an eye on Taehil. Ha-ryu is convinced the presidential candidate is hiding a big secret. It turned out to be true. Mayor Taehil secretly left and was going to a mental hospital. There, he visited Lee Chul-wok, also one of the key witnesses in the case of the murder of Aunt Jimmy's husband.
이철우, 철저히 잘 감시해.
Taehil hid the man so he wouldn't cause trouble during the crucial period leading up to the presidential election. Ha-ryu, who had been collecting information, finally came to the mental hospital with the aim of taking Lee Chul-wok away. After taking care of him for a few days, Ha-ryu took the man out to the police station. However, while stopping to buy drinks, Ha-ryu was shocked to find Lee Chul-wok unconscious after being injected by an unknown person. On the other hand, the presidential candidates are campaigning. While on the way to the TV station for a debate, Mayor Taehil hears cries for help, which turn out to be from a house on fire where a child is left inside. Initially, Taehil pretended not to know about it. However, Dahae saw it as a great opportunity to gain public support. She then invited Taehil to enter the fire and save the child. The people who witnessed it cheered them on and expressed their gratitude. They also said that Taehil should rightfully become president. When he arrived at the TV station, Taehil was already late. Reporters saw Dahae invite Taehil to go to the hospital. That's when curious journalists followed them. And in the end, finding out that Taehil visited the child he saved from the fire. The reporters eagerly captured the moment. Just as expected, the action successfully catapulted Taehil's name to great heights. Dahae also seemed very satisfied, even though she herself had to suffer a burn on her arm. Meanwhile, Ha-ryu's father met with Soo-young. He, who realized that the one living with him all this time is Ha-ryu, is very grateful because Soo-young has sacrificed a lot for him. He asked Soo-young to be happy and live her own life and stop coming to see him.
수정이 네 삶 살아라.
Amidst the chaos, President Baek came again and quietly went to surrender himself to the police station. He also confessed that he had killed someone. Before losing consciousness, Lee Chul-wok told Ha-ryu that Taehil was the killer of Jimmy's aunt. On the night of the incident, President Baek pushed him, making his head hit something and bleed profusely. However, it turns out that the man was not dead. After President Baek left, Jimmy's uncle woke up and appeared emotional when he saw Taehil in front of him, because he knew that Taehil was the one who stole the secret funds. Not wanting his actions to be exposed, he threw Aunt Jimmy's husband's body from the roof as if the man had jumped to commit suicide. Lee Chulwak, who happened to be passing by that night, witnessed the incident. He was even paid to fake the man's death. The election results release state that Tahiel has been elected as president. After the excitement ended, Dahay approached Tahiel and informed him that President Baek had turned himself in. She even mentioned that Tahiel is his key witness. Tahiel, confused, consulted Dahay, who always seemed calm. Dahay gave a letter, an agreement for marriage between herself and the mayor of Tahiel. Dahay wants to become the first lady, she can assist. Without much consideration, Tahiel agreed to it. He then called several people to take care of the mess that could damage her reputation.
처리하세요.
During her time as the First Lady, Dahay always built a good image, soon becoming a topic of conversation idolized by many people. While Dahay is busy building her image, Ha Ryu quietly prepares an attack by asking a comic artist to create a webcomic. What was planned is actually Dahay's life journey.
언제까지 날뛸 수 있는지 한번 두고 보자고요.
The webcomic titled Angel became incredibly very popular and reached Dahay's ears because at that time many people assumed that the story in the comic was about her. Hearing that, Dahay was enraged. She asked the assistant about who the author was, and the assistant did not know. To alleviate her annoyance, Dahay, in fact, decided to take action which led to Baek Ha's office receiving a search warrant, and even President Baek was arrested by the police. The mastermind behind all this is Dahay, Du Kyung, as the leader of Baek Ha, asks for a meeting. In front of Dahay, she kneels and apologizes for her father's release. Dahay is satisfied, convinced of her power to eliminate anyone in her way. She is confident the issue with the webcomic which bothers her will be resolved. However, due to the rapid rise in the comic's popularity, which disturbs Dahay, she issued a warning, making the website inaccessible. Unfortunately, Ha Ryu had already created a backup website and allowed the comic artist to continue their story. He even made a live call as the writer of the comic story during the event where Dahay was a guest star. Ha Ryu seemed happy to see Dahay under pressure, even though she tried to cover it up with an awkward smile. Afterward, Ha Ryu held a meeting with the Baek Ha leaders to form an independent council to investigate the First Lady. Ha Ryu sealed Juing's grave and Ha Eunbile and his family. He asked permission to use his twin's grave as an independent counselor. He went to the Blue Building, where Dahay was surprised to find out that the independent counselor appointed was Ha Ryu. Dahay never runs out of ideas, so she called the Minister of Justice and asked for help to identify Ha Ryu's fingerprints. Come to meet her.
119 파일 표 안 나게 조용하게 처리해 주셨어야죠.
They also agreed to conduct an investigation at another location as an alternative. Upon arriving at the agreed location, and as Dahay prepared to expose Ha Ryu's lies, it turned out she was too late, because the day before, Ha Ryu had already changed his identity to Kjae Wang.
지문이 일치합니다.
Ha Ryu has met the authorities on the issue about illegal political funds Dahay received from the Baek Ha group. Ha Ryu previously recorded all the conversations to be given to Dahay, which he now uses as evidence.
백학그룹에서 주다혜한테 불법 정치 자금을
Ha Ryu also visited several places he suspected of being receivers of illegal political funds and immediately conducted searches. Dahay, shocked her plan was at risk, chose to refuse the investigation for health reasons. She then immediately contacted her older brother who was trying to get out of prison. She ordered Yang Hyun to eliminate Ha Ryu because he was always getting in her way. That night, Yang Hyun sneaked into Ha Ryu's house to get rid of him. Ha-ryu was on alert as he realized there was a stranger in his house. In an instant, he defeated Yang Hyun, making him kneel. He also said that all this time, Yang Hyun has only been used by Dahae to satisfy her ambitions.
아직도 모르겠어? 주다현은 널 속이고 이용하고 있는 거야.
Ha-ryu contacted Dahae to trap her. Dahae was surprised when Ha-ryu said the conversation was overheard by Yang Hyun. She then contacted his henchmen to eliminate her stepbrother. When Dahae was feeling overwhelmed, she was further shocked by the news that Baek-ha Group was holding a press conference. During the conference, the leader of Baek-ha stated that they had given illegal political funds to the First Lady and were ready to face the consequences.
50억씩.
The news spread very quickly. Dahae is losing her image, and many people are protesting in front of the Blue Building. As an independent counselor, Ha-ryu got a warrant for a search at the Blue Building. He is confident that this time he can catch Dahae and make her pay for all her actions. When Ha-ryu arrived at the Blue Building, he planned to visit the First Lady's private room. However, as it violated the rules, he faced some resistance.
관저 내실은 여사님 승낙 없이는 들어갈 수...
Because Dahae keeps stalling, Ha-ryu pulled the woman into her room. He asked Dahae to hand over the documents she had. While still smiling and trying to stay calm, Dahae opened her personal safe, but she took out a weapon and immediately pointed it at Ha-ryu. The two stared at each other with hatred before the sound of a gunshot rang out. Blood kept dripping onto the floor along with the fallen weapon. Dahae and Ha-ryu hugged, bodies grew weaker. They exchanged glances before Ha-ryu finally fainted and was taken to the hospital. Dahae's head is filled with a lot of worries and concerns, anxieties and worries. She recalled how, in the end, the weapon she held injured Ha-ryu, who at that time kept asking her to wake up and end everything. Dahae, who was conscious at that moment, pulled the weapon away. She anxiety only slightly subsided after hearing the news that Ha-ryu's surgery went smoothly. To a counselor, Dahae explained that it was all an accident and the weapon was hers, which she kept in a safe for self-protection. Upon receiving news that Ha-ryu had escaped, Dahae became even more anxious. She wondered where Ha-ryu went, perhaps while carrying a document containing the investigation report. Dahae recalled the house she shared with Ha-ryu and their child. She guessed was right, Ha-ryu was there waiting with a weakening body. Ha-ryu promised that he would give the investigation files as long as Dahae was willing to be honest and confess her crimes. Dahae was initially hesitant, but in the end, she complied with Ha-ryu's request to obtain the investigation results.
하루 죽이라고 시킨 거 맞아.
It turned out that the conversation had been overheard by reporters through a phone call. Dahae hurriedly left while avoiding the reporters who chased her. Upon arriving at the Blue Building, Dahae went to her room and changed clothes like nothing happened. She hurried to the hall to attend the First Lady's party, only to find that the room was now empty. The situation has become very chaotic. The president is requesting a divorce process and is resigning. Same time, Ha-ryu hurried to the Blue Building to catch Dahae. It turns out he was slower than Yang Hyun, who had already taken Dahae away. Yang Hyun stopped his car in a field. He asked about Dahae's reason for ruthlessly killing her father. When Dahae tried to escape, Yang Hyun started the car and was about to hit her. Ha-ryu, following the black car, came quickly and saved Dahae. Seeing Ha-ryu's condition, Dahae could only cry and apologize with deep regret.
미안해.
When seeking help, Dahae eventually collapsed, and both were taken to the hospital and underwent intensive care. When he came to his senses, Ha-ryu unconsciously recalled how he first met Dahae at the orphanage and spent their childhood together. At that time, Ha-ryu always protected Dahae whenever the girl got into trouble. He liked it so much that Dahae's smile was what brought him back to life. When Ha-ryu woke up, Dahae was declared dead. Sometime later, he sat alone on a hospital bench, lost in thought and replaying his memories with Dahae. He and Dahae have gone through many precious times until they got married and had a child. However, Dahae decided to leave them solely for ambition.
더한 것도 할 수 있어.
Ha-ryu has always hindered Dahae from pursuing her dreams, but deep down in his heart, he misses the Dahae he once loved so much. Now Ha-ryu can only live his life while carrying recollections of Dahae and their daughter, which will forever be kept and cherished in his heart.